To assume their respective seats, we agreed 14:15, and it is exactly that, so we shall begin. Before we broke off for lunch, we had asked EU and Brazil to have coffee together on CRP 26.4.10. Let me invite EU to take the floor and update this meeting whether the discussion over coffee went well. EU, please.
I think they're having a very long and tasty coffee. So, they're not back yet. I have just sent them a message saying that we have started here, so I await a response.
That must be indeed very nice coffee. We expect the outcome to be nice. We shall hold a bit. May we have an emissary to the business committee to request the coffee team to report back to the meeting? It appears that the group that was meeting over coffee is in the House? If that be the case, let me invite the European Union and later on Brazil to update this meeting, the outcome of the coffee discussion. European Union, please.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states. So just maybe a little reminder. So we had an initial proposition and we had remarks made by a scientific council. To our understanding, the documents of the scientific council are an integral, complete part of the intersessional documents. So this taken, EU and its member states endorsed most of these changes, and we proposed a document, and which finally came up with a CRP document. This CRP is now challenged by a member state. We took up discussions with 2 member states, and we have something that is quite close to our understanding to a compromise, but I'm not really sure if every last change has been accepted by the other member state because of a lack of time, but we are quite close. So, Chair, if you allow, I would like to know, are we discussing now our common proposition, which we have sent 15 minutes ago to the Secretariat 10 minutes ago, or are we discussing about the CRP document? Thank you.
European Union, we are discussing the CRP document, of course, but that there were contestations. So we are discussing both the CRP and any proposal to change the CRP. So feel free to take us through what you think you agreed.
Guide him through the changes we can accept.
Please talk.
Let me invite Brazil to also update the meeting regarding the understanding of the coffee discussion. Brazil, please.
Actually, I would prefer to transfer the microphone to Argentina, please, and I'll complement.
Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Brazil and Argentina completely disagree to the outcome of the CRP. It is not the mandate of this convention to decide on agricultural and commercial matters. There are many international forums that discuss these questions, like the WTO, FAO, and the Codex Alimentarius. Additionally, the proposed text does not correspond to the main international documents related to the environment, like the Rio Convention or the CBD. We also should not forget the importance of food security and the alleviation of poverty, as stated in the 2030 Agenda of the UN. The proposed CPR text contains concepts that do not reflect the diverse realities and challenges faced by many countries and regions. Furthermore, the procedure for approval of the document was far from transparent. In the first place, we did not have access to the document until yesterday night. Secondly, it did not correspond to all the comments sent by parties. Thirdly, parties were not engaged in a constructive and open negotiation, and the text of the document is a result of a unilateral position of a very limited number of parties. Finally, if documents are only to be voted, or its text is to be imposed unilaterally, we didn't need to come here and have a constructive discussion. This weakens the Convention and all other multilateral environmental negotiations. As we do not want to break consensus, we are not going to proceed to vote. However, we strongly manifest that we completely disagree with the attitudes that we have seen before in this meeting.
Thank you, Argentina. Brazil, please.
Thank you very much. Brazil would like to second what was just stated by Argentina, and we please ask the Secretariat to register that in the meeting's documents. The text that was presented reflects the unilateral vision, and the exact text reflects the unilateral vision of a specific group of countries. There was not an openness to have an open debate and constructive debate that respected every country's sensitivities and every country's realities. And unfortunately, the fact is that by trying to create new language and not having a constructive action, this will not reflect, this will not change reality. That is not how cooperative action is made, and it just deeply affects the results of other environmental negotiations and the willingness to negotiate any other themes. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Before I invite EU, Brazil, do you want to confirm that you are making reservations on the revised proposal or on the CRP as was presented? Brazil, you have the floor.
We have reservations on both. The first document we sent our comments, they were not incorporated in the document. Then the CPR was presented here. There's an intent of having simply a vote. We could have done that online if it was just to vote the documents. And we also do not agree with what the content of the CRP. It reflects a unilateral vision of a very limited number of parties that wrote that text. But we will not break consensus. We do not think that is the correct attitude, and it's not a constructive attitude.
Thank you very much, Brazil. And thank you very much for the concession not to block consensus. I now go back to EU. EU, do you want to propose any changes in the CRP, or you are okay proceeding with the CRP as it is? European Union, please.
Thank you, Chair. No, the EU and its member states are feeling really fine with the CRP document. However, I think we had nevertheless 2 meetings with Argentina and Brazil, and I had the feeling that we had a good exchange, an extensive exchange, and we could agree on most of the points. So, in the sense, in the idea for finding a compromise, I could suggest that we could also discuss the document we have sent to the Secretariat 20 minutes ago, and Brazil could then react on this document. Our last document sent to you shows up all the points we agreed upon. So, it's nevertheless a bottom-up, very constructive way to go forward. Thank you.
Let me invite Brazil to make explicit comment whether it is your preference that we proceed to consider the new proposed revisions, or we proceed with the original CRP. Brazil, please.
What we try to express in Argentina also is that we sat down to discuss the document, we presented our opinions on 3 different paragraphs, and in the end, what was presented as a final line was more or less exactly what was presented in the CRP document. The CPR document reminds everyone that came unilaterally from one or two parties that added their changes to paragraph B, C, and D. So we will not block the consensus for the proposed changes, but we definitely do not think that they reflect existing international agreements, and it was not made in a constructive spirit because there was very few changes that were accepted, and there was not a constructive attitude to try to reach a consensus. But we will not block consensus. We do not think that's correct attitude when we all came here to India to try to negotiate texts.
Let me now invite the European Union to take us through the proposed revisions.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have to say that I did not have exactly the same feeling about what we discussed. I can nevertheless see, to make it shortly, but I will explain it a little bit more in detail later. So we added, on the suggestion of Brazil and Argentina, we added a sentence in the preambular. We made changes in 3 points. 3 points, those mentioned by Brazil right now, were adapted, and now I will explain then. So we have in the preambular, we have one sentence stating, on the proposition of Brazil and Argentina, what we accepted, the sentence recalling the Rio 15 principle. At the next point, in the operative part, it's the point B. In this point, we are talking about the pesticide use and their effects on non-target insect species. And they are essential for biodiversity and especially migratory species. And again, to narrow this even, it's only talking about those areas which are important for the migratory species. So what has been proposed was then the adding of as appropriate. And the question I ask here is, how can we add words like as appropriate if we are talking about protection of migratory species and the insects they depend on in areas which are important for the conservation? So the two words as appropriated cannot stand. So I will just come then. You see here the sentence added on the suggestion from Argentina and Brazil about recalling the Rio 15 principle. So this is one of the compromises we agreed on. If you could maybe scroll down, please, to the operative part, B. So here's the wording. About B, we talk about avoiding detrimental effects on non-target species in areas which are important for the conservation of species, including reducing the usage and risks. We cannot, EU and member states cannot accept here at this point the wording as appropriate. Next point, C, if you could scroll down, please. Thank you. So here we made some changes about the including pesticide usage. The word agricultural has been struck through, and we added also habitat loss as the primary causes of insect decline. Here we had a discussion about adding climate change. Although we completely agree with Brazil and Argentina that climate change is a major issue, but not in this context. Science shows the evidence that primary causes is pesticide use and habitat loss, not climate change. Yes, but we agreed on the point to take out the wording agricultural pesticide use for the sake of compromise. Finally, D, this is an agreed text. We have taken out the words in general, and instead of taking a definition for what is the precautionary approach, we are recalling in the preambula Rio 15. What is the demand of the two other member states, parties, sorry. So, Chair, this is the outcome of our two meetings from today with Brazil and Argentina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, European Union. I will now put it to the meeting. Do we have any objections to the additions and revisions proposed by the EU on CRP 26.4.10 as they have just been enumerated? Israel, please.
Yes, we realize that this is a result of negotiation, but in paragraph C, we would suggest to remove the word primary between the aiming at known causes of insect decline, not just of the primary ones, but if you have sustainable use of pesticides in agriculture, hopefully it'll address not just the primary causes of insect decline, but others as well. So we would recommend removing the word primary.
Thank you, Israel. Do we have any objections to the revision, slight revision proposed by Israel? I do not see objection. I take it that the revision proposed by Israel is agreeable. I now come back to the meeting. Do we have any objection to this meeting adopting CRP 26.4.10 as amended? I do not seem to see objection to this meeting adopting CRP 26.4.10 as amended. I take it that it is the decision of this meeting to forward the CRP 26.4.10 to plenary for adoption. And this brings us to the end of the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your cooperation and for having a spirit of progressing forward and for having a spirit of making concessions in the interest of moving forward. Thank you very much indeed, and I hereby now revert back the seat to the President of the COP. President, sir.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. In the absence of the COP chair, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, my boss, it is me. I shall be, as the COP vice chair, will be the presiding officer. The chair takes over from the cow chair and opens the plenary. I now open the closing plenary session of COP13. I am to begin by congratulating our chair of the committee of the whole, Mr. Akankwasa Barirega. He provided excellent guidance to the committee and has helped us bring these important matters to a close. Thank you so much, Mr. Barirega. A round of applause, please. And as the host country, as part of the government of Gujarat and everyone from India, may I as I congratulate you and thank you for visiting our country, for holding these important talks, may I request you to give a big round of applause for all the dignitaries on stage who have worked very hard to make this a success. Item number 29, interim and final report of the Credentials Committee. I invite the meeting to take up agenda item 29, interim and final report of the Credentials Committee. I invite the chair of the Credentials Committee to present the committee's final report. Final report of the chair of Credentials Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Credentials Committee has met several times over the course of the week and made regular reports of the Committee of the Whole on status of credentials examined and found to be in order. I am very pleased to report that the Credentials Committee of 63 parties were found to be in order. In the interest of time, I will refrain from reading out all of the parties' names, as these have already been presented to the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Chair, I have been advised by the Secretariat that 82 parties have attended the meeting. Therefore, 77% of the delegations attending presented by credentials that were found to be in order. This is an excellent achievement. The committee would like to encourage parties to strive for a 100% at the next COP. In summary, Mr. Chair, I would like to congratulate the parties that complied with rules of procedures. In addition, I would like to thank the Secretariat for diligent work with parties before and during the COP that enabled such a high level of compliance. Finally, I would like to thank other members of Credentials Committee, Malawi, Netherlands, and Uruguay for their important contributions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any comments, please? I don't think so. There are any. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I declare that the final reports of the Credentials Committee has been approved. That was the first time for me. I've not used it for a very long time. Okay. Item number 30. Reports of the sessional committees. Since all of the working groups, including budget, have reported in the COW, we can move to the next item. Are there any comments? Any questions? I don't think there are any. I thank the chairs of the sessional committees for their extraordinary work. The success of the meeting could not have happened without the tremendous effort they put into their tasks for shepherding the parties through this busy agenda. Though I read it out of a piece of paper, I do mean it as well. So, Item 15 and 16. Election and appointments to the Scientific Council and Standing Committee. I invite the meeting to turn their attention to agenda item 15 and 16. Election and appointments to the Scientific Council and the Standing Committee. Before we proceed with the election of the new members, I would like to ask the chairs of the Standing Committee and the chair of the Scientific Council to come up to the podium, and I will ask the Executive Secretary, Amy, to say a few words, please.
Good. Okay, these work. So I wanted to invite these two gentlemen up here before we move to the election of the new officers for the convention, just to thank them for their service over the past intersessional period and actually much prior to that. First, Fernando Spina, as you know, has served as the chair of the Scientific Council. We did have a chance to thank him in Bonn at the last meeting of the sessional committee, and in fact we were very pleased to present him with a number of gifts of appreciation, including the beautiful tie that he's sporting today. So here we can say thank you to Fernando. And because we gave him that, and also a little, it was a duck actually with a little Beethoven instead of hair, which he seemed to treasure more than the tie. And I also have a small gift, which is a Gibby coffee mug for you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Now, this gentleman here has a very long history with the Convention on Migratory Species, so I just want to take a minute to run through that. First, he was a member of the Scientific Council, in fact, in 2004. He also served as the chair of the Committee of the Whole at COP13 in Quito. He was re-elected as chair of the Standing Committee at the Standing Committee 47 in Manila. He then was elected as chair of the Standing Committee at the 43rd meeting in Quito in 2014. He was elected, actually we missed one, in Bergen, in 2011, then in Quito, and he has been the chair since then and has just given tremendous service to CMS, and of course leaving out things like chairing the budget working group here as well as at the last COP, and just being an incredible friend and advisor to me as I came on board, and to all of us at the Secretariat. We're extremely grateful for the service you've provided, and we know you're not leaving our side too much. We won't let you, but I just wanted to acknowledge your incredible service and give you a couple of gifts. First, we also have a Gibby coffee cup.
Oh, great. Thank you.
We also have, I brought a very special double CD, which is remastered of the Vienna Symphony Orchestra of all of Beethoven's symphonies.
Great, thank you.
From Bonn.
From Bonn, yeah.
And then lastly, but not least, we have a poster from Bonn with the signatures of the members of the CMS Secretariat. Let me just show you this. And with that, I just want to again say thank you, Oystein, and thank you for your sage advice at this meeting as well. So thank you very much.
May I request Ecuador to share comments with us? There's a request from Ecuador to say something. Waiting for Ecuador to come up with their comments, please. I think they're probably not. Are you here, gentlemen? No. Now I would like to ask all outgoing members of the Standing Committee, members of Sessional Committee of the Scientific Council, and COP appointed councillors to stand up, please. The outgoing members of the Standing Committee, members of the Sessional Committee of the Scientific Council, and COP appointed councillors to stand up, please. It's not a punishment just to stand up to identify yourself. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of the parties, Secretariat, and all of the many partners involved with the work of CMS, the last triennium, let me thank you all for your extraordinary work. The applause actually needs to come now. I'm doing this for the first time. I have a script to follow. Don't want anyone to make a mistake, including myself. Yeah. Let's now proceed with the nominations of the members to the subsidiary bodies of the convention. First, I invite the regions to present their nominations for the permanent and alternate standing committee, representatives for the new standing committee. I invite Africa to announce its 3 representatives and 3 alternate members to the standing committee. Representative from Africa, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Standing Committee for the African region is Mali, Algeria, and Kenya, alternated by Zimbabwe, Uganda, and Seychelles. While the Intersessional Committee, it's Senegal, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. And these are alternated by Ghana, Ethiopia, and Seychelles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I now invite Asia to announce its 2 representatives and 2 alternate members to the Standing Committee, please.
Thank you, President. Asia is nominating Saudi Arabia and Uzbekistan as a Standing Committee member, and Bangladesh and Pakistan as alternative Standing Committee member. And also we would like to nominate Kyrgyzstan as Intersessional Scientific Committee member. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would now like to invite Europe to announce its 3 representatives and 3 alternate members to the Standing Committee.
Thank you, sir. The new members will be Monaco, Italy, and Georgia will continue. And the 3 alternates, they are France, Switzerland, and Croatia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would now invite Latin America and the Caribbean to announce its 2 representatives and 2 alternate members to the Standing Committee, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Los miembros propietarios ante el Comité Permanente son Panamá e Uruguay, y los alternos son Costa Rica y el Perú. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you so much. I now invite Oceania to announce its representative and alternate member to the Standing Committee, please.
Thank you. Oceania's permanent representative on the Standing Committee will be New Zealand, and the alternate will be Palau.
I would like to point out that the Chair and Vice Chair of the Standing Committee, together with the Chair and members of the Subcommittee on Finance and Budget, will be elected by the new Standing Committee at its 51st meeting immediately after the close of the COP today. Are there any comments from the floor, please? I guess not. So thank you to all for agreeing to play this important role. The nominations are accepted. We now move to the appointment of the Sessional Committee of the Scientific Council for the next triennium. Item 15.2. I understand that the Committee of the Whole recommends the appointment of COP-appointed councillors for the next intersessional period for the following subject areas: birds, aquatic mammals, terrestrial mammals, fish, climate change, connectivity and networks, marine pollution, bycatch, invasive species. If there is no objection, I will consider the subject areas as agreed upon. Thank you for no objections. Since there being no objections, I confirm the previously mentioned subject areas for the next intersessional period as agreed. Thank you, Amy. She got the Indian version of the gavel, which is the Hathori. I also understand that the Committee of the Whole, upon recommendation of the Scientific Council, recommends to reconfirm the current COP-appointed councillors for birds, aquatic mammals, climate change, and bycatch for the next intersessional period. If there is no objection, I will consider these reappointments as agreed. Any objections, please? Since there are no objections, I confirm the reappointment of the COP-appointed councillors for birds, aquatic mammals, climate change, and bycatch as agreed. I also understand that the Committee of the Whole, WHOLE, I also understand the Committee of the Whole recommends the following experts to be appointed for the other agreed subject areas as follows. For terrestrial mammals, Professor Rodrigo Antonio Medellin Legorreta, Professor Alfred Apau Oteng Yabo. For fish, Dr. Rima Yabado. For connectivity and/or networks, Dr. Fernando Spina. For marine pollution, Dr. Mark Simmons. For invasive species, Dr. Holly Jones, Dr. Tatiana Eliza Chapla. Any objections, please? Since there are no objections, okay. Australia would like to share some comments with us. Australia, please.
Thank you, Chair. certainly don't want to object, but just want to clarify that for the fish position, we recommended the sharing of that position between Dr. Zeb Hogan, who is one of the current COP-appointed councillors, and a new nomination from Dr. Rima Jabadoo. So I just wanted to make that clear, that that position was being shared. And then with respect to invasive species, while we have recommended the subject area, we are going to continue discussions on the logistical arrangements and talking with the two nominations from Brazil and New Zealand intersessionally early on, and we are hoping that the COP will recommend that standing committee can approve those positions following a sessional committee recommendation intersessionally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your points are duly noted. Since there are no objections to the other nominees, the nominations stand accepted. I now move to the nomination of the party-appointed members of the Sessional Committee of the Scientific Council. Each region has to nominate the members to the Sessional Committee from among the current members of the Scientific Council. In addition, regions can nominate alternate members. I invite Africa to announce the 3 regional members of the Sessional Committee as well as any alternate. Africa, please.
Thank you, President. Africa would like to bring forth the following names. Main members: Senegal, alternated by Ghana; Uganda, alternated by Ethiopia; Zimbabwe, alternated by Seychelles. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite Asia to announce the 3 regional members of the Sessional Committee as well as any alternate.
Thank you, President. For the Intersessional Scientific Committee, Asia will be represented by Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, and Kyrgyzstan. Thank you.
I do see that Mongolia, that's taken off probably by mistake. I now invite Europe to announce the 3 regional members of the Sessional Committee as well as any alternate.
Thank you again, sir. Since it's a personal appointment, I will read out the names. The 2 new members are Dr. Ruben Moreno Opo from Spain, and we have João José de Bastos Loureiro from Portugal. As new alternates, we have Mr. Jean-Philippe Ciblé from France, and we have James Williams from the UK as alternate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe Norway would like to share something with us. Norway, please.
This is what you...
Sorry, that was from Norway. I would now invite Latin America and the Caribbean to announce the 3 regional members of the Sessional Committee as well as any alternate.
Gracias, señor presidente. Los miembros que estamos ratificando para que se mantengan en el comité científico son el doctor Carlos Mario Orrego Vázquez de Costa Rica, la máster Patricia Pereira Serafini del Brasil y el señor Héctor Vera Alcaraz de Paraguay. Gracias, señor presidente.
Gracias, thank you so much. I now invite Eugenia to announce the 3 regional members of the Sessional Committee as well as any alternate, please.
Thank you, Chair. Australia has Narelle Montgomery from Australia and Graham Taylor from New Zealand as our Sessional Committee members, Our third member will be provided to the Secretariat in due course. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments, please? Thank you so much for agreeing to play this important role. Thanks to everyone. The nominations stand accepted. I would like to congratulate the members of the Sessional Committee for their appointment. Also, as part of document 15.1, the Committee of the Whole agreed to note the recommendations of the Sessional Committee for consideration of COP appointed councillor, subject areas, and a draft decision directing the Secretariat to establish and maintain an ex officio register of expertise. Can we adopt these recommendations, please? There aren't any objections. I see no objections. It is adopted. Item number 31, adoption of resolutions, decisions, and amendments to the appendixes. I invite the conference to adopt the agreed amendments to the appendices of the convention and the text of the resolutions. I remind parties that, consistent with Rule 17, paragraphs 1 and 2 of the Rules of Procedure, whenever the conference considers a recommendation originating from the Committee of the Whole, where discussion of the recommendation has been conducted with interpretation in the 3 working languages of the session, there shall be no further discussion on the recommendation unless the parties decide by a 2/3 majority vote to open the debate. I will begin with the adoption of amendments to the appendices. The COW examined 10 proposals to amend the CMS appendices, including the recommendations emanating from their review by the 4th meeting of the Sessional Committee of the Scientific Council. The Committee of the Whole considered and recommended the following species for inclusion in the appendices. The Committee of the Whole recommended adoptions of all of these proposals by consensus, except for one which went to vote. In addition, one proposal, Brazil's proposal for inclusion of populations of smooth hammerhead shark, SPHYRNA, ZYGAENA, I don't know the pronunciation, from Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay, in Appendix 2, included populations covered by the European Union's proposal for inclusion of the global population of the species in Appendix 2. As the COW recommended adoption of the EU's proposal, it did not need to decide on Brazil's. I will now read out the list of species recommended for adoption, and hearing no objections, they will be adopted. Firstly, mammalia. The mainland Asian elephant, Indian elephant, Elephas maximus indicus, included in Appendix 1. Any objections? I see no objections. It's adopted. Jaguar Panthera onca, included in Appendix 1 and 2. Any objections? There aren't any objections. It's adopted. The Uriel ovis vignei, included in Appendix 2. This listing corresponds to the Ovis aries, Wilson and Reader 2005, and applies only to wild populations in Afghanistan, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan, except for hybrid populations. Any objections? There aren't any. Thank you. It is adopted. The Bengal florican, Hobaropsis bengalensis, bengalensis, included in the Appendix 1. Any objections? I see no objections. It is adopted. AVs. The Great Indian Bustard, Ariotis nigriceps, included in Appendix 1. Any objections? No. It's adopted. The little bustard, tetrax, included in Appendix 1 and 2. Any objections? No. I see no objections. It is adopted. The Antipodian albatross, Diomedia antipodensis, included in Appendix 1. Any objections? I don't see any. It is adopted. Pisces. The oceanic white-tip shark, Carcharhinus longimanus, included in Appendix 1. Any objections? No. It stands adopted. The smooth hammerhead shark, Spirina zagina, included in Appendix 2. Any objections? I see no objections. It is adopted. The tope shark, Galeornis galleus, included in Appendix 2. Any objections? I don't see any. It's adopted. I now invite comments from the floor on the species listing proposals. I don't think anyone would make any comments. So I will now proceed to the adoption of resolutions, decisions, and the other documents. We turn first to consider document 13.1 on execution of the CMS budget 2018-2020. The committee recommended to note the report. Can we agree to note this report? Is the budget. Do you agree? Yes. There aren't any exceptions, any objections. It is noted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 13.2 on the budget 2021-2023 and program of work for the intersessional period between COP13 and COP14, which was considered by the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee made some changes to the program of work for the triennium 2021-2023 and the associated documents under Agenda Item 13. The Committee of the Whole then recommended by consensus the adoption of these three documents. The proposed changes and its 5 annexes are found in CRP 13.2, REV 1, and CRP 13.2, Annex 6. Are there any objections to the adoption of these proposals? No objections. Therefore, it stands adopted. We turn first to consider document 13.3 on resource mobilization. The committee recommended to note the report. Can we agree to note these documents, please? Any objections? No. Hearing no objection, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 14.1 on progress in the implementation of the Strategic Plan for Migratory Species 2015 to 2023. The committee referred the document to an ad hoc working group which proposed changes to the draft decisions which can be found in CRP 14.1 Can we agree to adopt CRP 14.1? Any objections? It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft decisions included in document 14.2 on options for a follow-up to the strategic plan for migratory species 2015-2023. The committee referred the document to an ad hoc working group which proposed changes to the draft decisions which can be found in CRP 14.2 and CRP 14.2 Rev 2. Can we agree to adopt CRP 14.2 Rev 2, please? Any objections? Hearing no objection, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft decisions and the deletion of decision 12.105E found in document 17 on the CMS contribution to the post-2020 global biodiversity framework. The committee referred the document to an ad hoc working group which proposed revisions to the draft decisions as found in CRP 17. Can we agree to adopt CRP 17 and delete this decision? Any objections? Amy, you have a group of very good men and women. There aren't any objections, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the amendments to Resolution 11.10, Reverend COP 12, the adoption of new decisions in document 18 on the synergies and partnerships. The committee referred the document to an ad hoc working group which proposed revisions as found in CRP 18. Can we agree to adopt CRP 18? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 18.1 on the cooperation with the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, which proposed amendments to Resolution 10.8, REV COP12, the deletion of decisions 12.13 and 12.14, as well as adoption of new decisions. The committee proposed revisions as found in CRP 18.1, including additional amendments made on the floor. Can we agree to adopt CRP 18.1 as amended and the deletion of these decisions? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the proposed amendments to Resolution 11.9 found in document 18.2 on World Migratory Bird Day. The committee proposed additional revisions as found in CRP 18.2. Can we agree to adopt CRP 18.2? Any objections? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. Can you hear a bigger round of applause to confirm that no one is sleeping? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. The Committee of the Whole considered document 20 on national reports. The committee took note of the national reports analysis, recommended deletion of decision 12.4 and 12.5, and recommended the adoption of new decisions as modified and found in CRP 20. Can we agree to note the analysis, delete these decisions, and adopt CRP 20? Any objections? Hearing no objection, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 21 on the application of Article 3 of the Convention, which proposed the adoption of a new resolution and draft decisions. The committee referred the document to an ad hoc working group which proposed new draft decisions, which are found in CRP 21. Can we agree to adopt CRP 21, please? Any objections? There aren't any changes. Sorry. There aren't any objections. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 22 on the Review Mechanism and National Legislation Program. The committee took note of the template for communication of possible implementation matters, legislative guidance material, and a model law for implementing Article 3. It also recommended deletion of decisions 12.6 to 12.9 and the adoption of new decisions. The committee agreed to revise draft decisions, which can be found in CRP 22. Can we agree to note these documents, delete these decisions, and adopt CRP 22, please? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 23.1 on review of decisions, which proposed the deletion of 6 decisions and the renewal of 9 decisions. The Secretariat further recommended the deletion of decisions 12.1 and 12.42. The committee agreed to recommend the deletion of these decisions. Can we agree to adopt these recommendations, please? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 23.2 on review of resolutions, decisions 12.11 and 12.12, which recommended the repeal of resolutions 7.18 REV COP12 and resolution on 6.3 Rev COP12, as well as decisions 12.11 and 12.12. The committee recommends the repeal of these resolutions and deletion of these decisions. Can we agree to adopt these recommendations, please? There aren't any objections. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 24/Reference 1 on the review of the conservation status of migratory species. The committee noted the report and revised the proposed draft decisions as found in CRP 24. Can we agree to note the report and adopt CRP 24, please? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 25 on the progress towards the development of an atlas on animal migration. The Committee of the Whole noted the document. Can we agree to note the report? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 26.1.1 on the prevention of illegal killing, taking and trade of migratory birds, which included draft revisions of the Resolution 11.6 Revision COP12 and decisions 12.26 to 12.30. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed additional changes which are reflected in CRP 26.1.1. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.1.1? Any objections? No objections, hence it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the new species list of AEMLAP in Document 26.1.2 on Action Plan for Migratory Land Birds in the African Eurasian Region, that's AEMLAP. LAP. The document proposed amendments to resolutions 11.17, revision COP12, revisions to decisions 22.22 to 12.25, adoption of a new decision, deletion of decision 12.22, paragraph C, and changes to the action plan. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed additional changes which are reflected in CRP 26.1.2. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.1.2? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.1.3 on preventing poisoning of migratory birds, which included proposed amendments to Resolution 11.15, revision COP12, revisions to decisions 12.18 and 12.19, and adoption of a new decision. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed additional changes, which are reflected in CRP 26.1.3. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.1.3? Any objections? There aren't any objection. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.1.4 on flyways, which included proposed revisions to Resolution 12.11 and decisions 12.31 to 12.35, as well as a new draft decision. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed amendments to these documents, which are reflected in CRP 26.1.4, revision 1. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.1.4 stroke revision 1? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.1.4 on flyways, which included proposed revisions to Resolution 12.11 and decisions 12.31 to 12.35, as well as a new draft decision. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed amendments to these documents, which are reflected in CRP 26.1.4 revision number 1. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.1.4 revision 1? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.1.5 on the action plans for the birds, which included draft amendments to Resolution 12.12 and decisions 12.20 and 12.21 and proposed new decisions. The committee referred the document to the Avian Working Group, which proposed additional changes, which are reflected in CRP 26.1.5. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.1.5? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. Seeing a lot of ladies and gentlemen having coffee, the Committee of the Whole requests if some coffee can be served on the dais, please. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.2.1 revision 1 on conservation measures relevant to CMS listed species evident from the identification of important marine mammal areas. That's IMMAs. After referring the document to the Aquatic Working Group, the committee took note of the document, a report on progress of the IMA process, and the advice of the Scientific Council on Dudong Dugon. The committee further agreed to recommend deletion of decisions 12.40 and 12.41 and adoption of new decisions found in CRP 26.2.1. Can we agree to take note of the document, delete these decisions, and adopt CRP 26.2.1? Any objections? I don't see any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft and revised decisions in document 26.2.2 revision 1 on marine noise. The committee referred the document to the Aquatic Working Group, which proposed additional changes which can be found in CRP 26.2.2. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.2.2? Any objections? No. No. It stands adopted. I think I heard someone here. The Committee of the Whole considered draft decisions in document 26.2.3 on bycatch and referred the document to the Aquatic Working Group, which proposed additional changes which can be found in CRP 26.2.3. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.2.3? Any objections? No, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.2.4 revision 1 on aquatic wild meat. The committee noted the 4 reports referred in the document. It is also agreed to recommend the adoption of new decisions and the deletion of decisions 12.44, 12.45 and 12.46. Can we agree to adopt these recommendations? Any objections, please? Yes, Israel wants to say something.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to stop you. You're on a good roll there. 26.2.4 for some reason does not appear on the website. So we don't have the final version of it at this moment.
We'll get it on the website and come back to it, gentlemen. So, go ahead. Yeah.
That document wasn't revised. CRP was agreed on the floor. Okay, explain it to me. The document was agreed on the floor.
Gentlemen from Israel, I would like to let you know that the document was approved on the floor. There weren't any changes made or amendments made to it. So it is as it is. So do you have any objections to that? No. So it stands adopted. The COW considered document 26.2.5 on marine wildlife watching. After referring the document to the Aquatic Working Group, the committee noted the review of recreational in-water interactions with aquatic species, review of existing guidelines and issues of concern. It is also agreed to recommend deletion of decisions 12.50 to 12.52 and decisions 12.78 to 12.80, as well as the adoption of new draft decisions in CRP 26.2.5. Can we agree to note this review, delete these decisions, and adopt CRP 26.2.5? Any objections? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the revisions to Decision 12.17 found in document 26.2.6, revision 2 on marine turtles. After referring the document to the aquatic working group, the committee agreed to recommend the proposed changes to the aquatic working group, and the committee agreed to recommend the proposed changes to decision 12.17 found in CRP 26.2.6. I read the last line, I made a mistake in that. After referring the document to the aquatic working group, the committee agreed to recommend the proposed changes to decision 12.17 found in CRP 26.2.6. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.2.6? Any objections, please? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.2.7 on chondrichthyan species, sharks, rays, skates, and chimeras. After referring the document to the aquatic working group, the committee agreed to recommend consolidation of resolutions and adoption of new decisions on chondrichthyan species. I'm just trying to make it sound as stylish as possible. I really don't know what the pronunciation is. I'll read that line once again. After referring the document to the aquatic working group, the committee agreed to recommend consolidation of resolutions and adoption of new decisions on chondrichthyan species, which can be found in CRP 26.2.7. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.2.7, please? Any objections? No, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.2.8 on live capture of cetaceans from the wild for commercial purposes. After referral to the aquatic working group, the committee agreed to recommend deletion of decisions 12.47 to 12.49 and adoption of new decisions which can be found in CRP 26.2.8. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.2.8? Any objections? There aren't any. It is therefore adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft decisions in document 26.2.9 on European eel. After referring the draft decisions to the aquatic working group, the committee recommended the adoption of the draft decisions which can be found in CRP 26.2.9. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.2.9? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.2.10, revision 2, on the Global Program of Work for Cetaceans. After referring the draft decisions to the aquatic working group, the committee recommended the adoption of the draft decisions, which can be found in CRP 26.2.10, as well as the deletion of decision 12.16. Can we agree to delete this decision and adopt CRP 26.2.10? Any objections? Coffee. There aren't any objections. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.1, revision 1 on the African Carnivores Initiative. Is it imitative? Imitative. Let me repeat that. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.1, revision 1 on the African Carnivores Initiative. I was right. Initiative, yeah. Thank you so much. Feels great to make a correction on this document here. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.1, revision 1 on the African Carnivores Initiative. After referring the draft decisions to the Terrestrial Working Group, the committee took note of the executive summary of the guidelines on the conservation of lions in Africa and the roadmap for the conservation of leopard in Africa. It is also recommended the deletion of decisions 12.55 to 12.70, as well as the adoption of a draft resolution and several decisions, which can be found in CRP 26.3.1. Can we agree to note these documents, delete these decisions, and adopt CRP 26.2.10? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.2 on the African wild ass, which proposed revisions to resolution 12.18 and decision 12.71. The final versions of these documents can be found in CRP 26.3.2. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.3.2? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. Now, you may not clap now. You have just proved that you are not asleep. I'll ask you to clap in a little while now. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.3 on the African Elephant Action Plan. After referral to the Terrestrial Working Group, the committee agreed to recommend adoption of the decisions in CRP 26.3.3. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.3.3? Any objections, please? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.3.4 on the Sahelo-Saharan megafauna, which proposed revisions to Resolution 9.21, Revision COP12, and a new decision. After referral to the Terrestrial Working Group, the committee agreed to recommend adoption of the revised resolution and the new decision, which can be found in CRP 26.3.4. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.3.4? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered revisions to Resolution 11.24 with a new program of work covering the period 2020 to 2026 in document 26.3.5 on the Central Asian Mammals Initiative, that is CAMI. After referral to the Terrestrial Working Group, which proposed additional changes, the committee agreed to recommend its adoption. The final text can be found in CRP 26.3.5. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.3.5? Any objections? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.1, Revision 1 on the conservation implications of animal culture and social complexity, which proposed deletion of decisions 12.75 to 12.77 and the adoption of new decisions. The committee agreed to recommend deletion of those decisions and adoption of the new decisions. Can we agree to delete these decisions and the adoption of new decisions, please? Any objections? Aren't any? It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered a draft resolution and draft decision as well as revisions to decisions 12.81 and 12.82. The proposals are found in document 26.4.2.1 on the renewable energy and migratory species. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.2.1, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.2.1? Any objections? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered proposed revisions to Resolution 10.11 contained in document 26.4.2.2 on power lines and migratory birds. After making revisions which can be found in CRP 26.4.2.2, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.2.2? Any objections? There aren't any. It is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.3 on addressing unsustainable use of terrestrial and avian wild meat of migratory species of wild animals. This document proposed revisions to Decision 12.83, the renewal of Decisions 12.84, 12.85 and 12.88, and the deletion of Decisions 12.86 and 12.87. After making revisions which can be found in CRP 26.4.3, Revision 1, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.4.3, Revision 1? Any objections? No. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the amendments to Resolution 12.26 and Decisions 12.91, 12.92 and 12.93 in document 26.4.4 on improving ways of addressing connectivity in the conservation of migratory species. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.4, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.4? Any objections? Hearing no objections, it stands adopted. Okay, I think I see France wanting to make some comments. Can we have France, please?
Yes. Yeah. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ce n'est pas une objection, bien au contraire. Comme l'a exprimé l'ambassadeur Verling lors du segment de haut niveau, la connectivité est un sujet qui tient beaucoup à cœur du gouvernement français et qu'il applique sur le territoire national et qu'il souhaite voir développer au plan international. C'est pour cela que la France a le plaisir d'annoncer qu'elle fera une contribution volontaire au programme de travail sur le projet intitulé « Effectuer une analyse sur les liens entre la connectivité des espèces migratrices et la résilience des écosystèmes ». Merci.
Your points are noted. Since there aren't any more objections, it stands adopted. The rest of the decision stands adopted. This one is done, right? Yeah. Yes. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.5 on the trans-frontier conservation areas for migratory species, which proposed amendments to Resolution 12.7 and renewal of Decisions 12.94 to 12.96. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.5, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption after amending paragraph 12. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.5 as amended? Any objections? Since there aren't any, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.6 on the community participation and livelihoods, which proposed deletion of Decision 12.99, amendments to Decision 12.98 and 12.100, and adoption of a new decision. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.6, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption of these proposals. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.4.6, please? Any objections? In the absence of any objection, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the adoption of decisions found in document 26.4.7 on the impacts of plastic pollution on aquatic, terrestrial, and avian species. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.7, the committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.7, please? Any objections? Since there are no objections, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.8 on the climate change and migratory species, which proposed deletion of decision 12.73, revision of decisions 12.72 and 12.74, and the adoption of a new decision. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.8, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of these proposals. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 26.4.8? Any objections? Since there aren't any objections, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 26.4.9.1, revision 1 on light pollution guidelines for wildlife, including marine turtles, seabirds, and migratory shorebirds. The document and document 26.4.9.2 on light pollution and migratory species. The ideas included in these two documents were combined into a draft resolution and draft decisions that can be found in CRP 26.4.9. The committee agreed to recommend their adoption. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.9? Any objection? Since there aren't any, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft resolution and the draft decision in document 26.4.10 on insect decline and its threat to migratory insectivorous animal populations. After making revisions which can be found in CRP 26.4.10, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of these proposals as amended on the floor. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.10 as amended on the floor? Any objections, please? There aren't any, it stands adopted. Okay, we have Brazil who wants to share something. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Chair. We will not break consensus on this issue, but we'd like to be registered in the plenary meeting report that in our understanding and according to international law, the provisions of this resolution do not affect the rights and obligation of parties deriving from any existing international agreement. Thank you.
Your observations are noted, gentlemen. Since there seems to be no other objections on the... Yes, there is one more. Can we have Argentina, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just very quick, we add to Brazil's statement. Thank you.
Your observation has been noted. Can we have Peru, please?
Gracias, señor presidente. El Perú, si bien sí concordaba con el texto original del documento, en lo que concuerda con Brasil y Argentina es en la forma en la que se ha analizado el mismo, debido a que se debe recoger la opinión y el análisis de todas las partes que estamos participando. Gracias.
Thank you, ma'am. I think Uruguay would want to share something with us. Uruguay, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Uruguay quiere reafirmar la posición que ha expresado Brasil por el tema, por la forma en que se ha tratado este tema. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Are there any objections to any of the other revisions, since all the points raised by all these countries are noted? There don't seem to be any more objections, so the rest of the revisions stand adopted. Right. The Committee of the Whole considered draft decisions included in document 26.4.11 on infrastructure development and migratory species. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 26.4.11, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of these decisions. Can we agree to adopt CRP 26.4.11? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the consolidated resolution and draft decision found in document 27.2 on the guidelines for preparing and assessing proposals for the amendment of the appendices to the Convention. The committee referred these proposals to an ad hoc working group. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 27.2, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of these proposals, as well as the deletion of decisions 12.10 and 12.101. Can we agree to delete these decisions and adopt CRP 27.2? Any objections? No. Therefore, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 27.3 on the disaggregation of bird families and genera listed under Appendix 2. The committee noted the report included in this document. Can we agree to note this report, please? Any objections? I don't see any objections, therefore it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft resolution found in document. Repeat. The Committee of the Whole considered the draft resolution found in document 27.4 on the reservations with respect to amendments to appendices 1 and 2 of the Convention. After making revisions, which can be found in CRP 27.4, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of this resolution. Can we agree to adopt CRP 27.4? Any objections? There aren't any. It stands adopted. Excuse me. The Committee of the Whole considered a number of actions under agenda item 28. I'll go to the next one. Also under agenda item 28.1, the Committee of the Whole considered reports on the implementation of concerted actions for 8 different species or groups of species. The committee agreed to note these reports, which are found in documents 28.1.1 through 21.1.8. Can we agree to note these reports? Any objections? In the absence of any objections, it stands adopted. The committee considered several concerted actions for specific species or groups of species under agenda item 28.2 in the new proposals for concerted actions for the triennium 2021-2023. In the interest of time, I'm going to take this as a block. Found in documents 28.2.1 to 28.2.12, the committee considered 12 proposals concerning the following species and group of species. I'll just go with the English names. Nutcracking chimpanzees of West Africa, Asian elephants, giraffe, Sahelo-Saharan megafauna, Irrawaddy dolphin, South Asian river dolphin, harbor porpoise, common guitarfish and large-toothed sawfish, common guitarfish, bottlenose wedgefish, and the families Rhinobatidae and Glaucostegidae. The great Indian bustard, the Bengal florican, Antipodean albatross. The Committee of the Whole recommended the adoption of all these concerted actions. Are there any objections to adopting this list and the specific concerted actions? Any objections? In the absence of any objection, it stands adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered a number of actions under Agenda 28.1 on the progress of implementation of concerted actions. After considering document 28.1, the committee agreed to recommend the deletion of decisions 12.103 and 12.104. It further agreed to recommend the endorsement of the approach for reviewing concerted actions proposed by the sessional committee, including the direction to the Secretariat to revise the table in Annex 3 of Resolution 12.28, which lists the species subject to concerted actions. The committee further recommended the adoption of an amendment to the format for listing species designated for concerted action. Can we agree to adopt these recommendations? Any objections? There aren't any, therefore it stands adopted. I wish to say that how refreshing it is to see these concerted actions now becoming concrete proposals with enthusiastic engagement of the parties involved. My sincere thanks to the proponents for developing them. Lastly, I want to return us to the Gandhinagar Declaration. The Committee of the Whole took up this issue after discussion in a high-level segment. The Gandhinagar Declaration provides a means for CMS to articulate its vision for the post-2020 global biodiversity framework. After discussion in the committee of the declaration submitted as CRP1, the committee referred the declaration to an ad hoc committee that proposed some revisions which can be found in CRP 1, Revision 1. After further discussion, the committee amended a paragraph in the preamble and recommended its adoption as reflected in CRP 1, Revision 2. Can we agree to adopt the Gandhinagar Declaration as found in CRP 1, Revision 2? Any objections? In the absence of any objection, it stands adopted. Item number 32. Date and venue of the 14th meeting of COP. We shall now turn to agenda item 32. Date and venue of the 14th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat to inform us about this agenda item. Amy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I understand that while there has been some discussion, and we've heard from some parties about hosting of COP14, no formal expression of interest in the hosting of COP14 has been communicated to the Bureau or to the Secretariat. Thus, in accordance with Resolution 11.1, I would invite parties, as well as non-parties, that may have an interest in hosting the 14th meeting of the Conference of the Parties and the associated meetings of the Standing Committee to inform the Secretariat of their interest no later than 180 days from the conclusion of this meeting. The Standing Committee, at its first meeting following the date for informing the Secretariat of an interest to host a meeting of the Conference of the Parties, will review the offers received and, subject to receipt of sufficient information, would decide on the most suitable venues. So we certainly welcome all offers of interest and look forward to receiving these. Thank you.
Item number 33, adoption of the report. I invite the meeting to adopt the report of the meeting. Please note that delegates will have a period of 1 month from the date of the posting of the report on the CMS website to submit written comments, corrections, or other proposed amendments to the Secretariat. Do you have any objections? In the absence of any objections, the report stands. Okay, we have Togo.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est juste pour vous dire que la traduction française a probablement un problème.
Well, your observation is noted. I'm sure Amy is going to make the. He says that there's some mistake in the French translation of the document. Your observation is noted, gentlemen. I hope are there any objections to any other revision? In the absence of any other objection, the revisions stand adopted. Item number 34, any other business. I invite the conference to raise any other matters of business. Ladies and gentlemen, you could please raise if you have any other business except the personal businesses. Huh? Okay. BirdLife International would want to raise some points. Can we have them speak, please?
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the BirdLife International Partnership, Wetlands International and the International Crane Foundation, I thank our fantastic hosts here in India for making us so welcome and comfortable during our stay, the CMS Secretariat for their outstanding work in making the COP run so effectively, and the various chairs. We are very lucky in the CMS family to be able to call on such a high standard of chair. Migratory species connect the planet, and together we welcome them home, is the message of the Global Convention on Migratory Species 13th Conference of the Parties, COP13. The COP has discussed at length the concept of ecological connectivity. It is excellent that the CMS family will champion the inclusion of this in the post-2020 framework. But connectivity is not just a concept for high-level discussion, and we must now go home and match our deeds to our words. We must secure the corridors, the flyways and the swimways and their vital stepping stones of habitat and sites our migratory species rely on. Achieving safe passage for our migratory species needs much more hard work and cooperation, and sometimes it may need tough decisions. All around the world, critical strongholds of migratory species are being degraded and destroyed, and this should worry us all. Destructive planning decisions may not come from your ministry, but they're certainly your business. They should be of concern to us all because the investment one country makes in protecting migratory species can be futile if there's damaging action elsewhere. 2 points occur to us about action to maintain connectivity which CMS could take during the intersessional period to help parties avoid damaging developments such as airports. The first relates to the intervention Saudi made at the adoption by the COW of the Powerline Resolution, calling for CMS guidance on avoidance of airstrikes around airports, building on existing guidance and experience from around the world, including on the use of sensitivity mapping. We strongly support this statement and hope that the Scientific Council will take this on. The second relates to impact assessment. CMS Resolution 7.2 on impact assessment and migratory species asks parties to use CBD voluntary guidelines on biodiversity inclusive impact assessment. These are rather general, and the COP has just adopted decisions on infrastructure and migratory species. We urge CMS during the intersessional period, with the help of the Scientific Council, to work on preparing guidance to complement that of CBD, to help parties to avoid proposing damaging developments in critical areas for migratory species in the first place, and where that fails, to ensure the potential impact on migratory species of proposed developments is properly assessed, not only at individual sites where there is a particular threat, but taking into account the wider impact on migratory routes and the knock-on effects for migratory populations in each country in order to ensure that ecological connectivity is properly taken into account. If such guidance was in place, perhaps it would help parties to avoid conflict such as that which is very much in the media at the moment in Portugal, Netherlands, UK and beyond. There are advanced plans for a new international airport and associated infrastructure in Lisbon, Portugal, in the Tagus estuary, which will impinge on a Ramsar site and an EU special protection area. It's one of the most important passage, winter and wintering sites in the East Atlantic Flyway and the most important coastal wetland in Portugal, at times holding 300,000 birds. The area is internationally important for 12 species and is especially vital for the near-threatened black-tailed godwit, supporting more than a third of the flyway population. Many other countries of the flyway, especially the Netherlands, invest heavily in the conservation of this species. This proposed airport would sever the vital connection between the birds' feeding and roosting areas and between the chain of sites along the flyway. It's therefore the subject of an AWA implementation review process already. We hope that following this COP and the commitments we've all made along this flyway, we will work together to safeguard connectivity and cooperate to support Portugal in averting a disaster at this site, which would affect these migratory species throughout the flyway. We must ensure that all the countries of each flyway continue to be able to welcome home the migratory birds, which are the shared natural heritage that connect them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I request Portugal to come up with their comments, please?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, let me congratulate you and all the other chairs of this conference for their leadership and India for hosting this meeting and for its hospitality. I apologize for asking for the floor, but I want to assure the CMS family that the impact assessment done to the Montijo International Airport near Lisbon, which is referred in BirdLife International Statement, was duly evaluated according to all the available criteria. The project was approved only after the inclusion of some 160 compensation and minimization measures in order to respond to the identified impacts on wildlife. The new areas that will be granted conservation and protection measures will be larger than the protection affected ones. Thank you.
May I have New Zealand share your comments with us, please?
Thank you. On behalf of the Oceania region, we would like to thank India for hosting this meeting. The venue is spectacular and the preparation and organisation impeccable. A real highlight was the small taste of the diverse culture of India that we saw at the Champions Night in the opening function. We're looking forward to seeing more of this amazing country. Oceania would also like to express our sincere thanks to the Secretariat, the Chair of Plenary, and the Chair of the Committee of the Whole for keeping our discussions running and effective functioning of the COP. Unfortunately, Oceania was missing 2 of our 7 parties at this meeting due to concerns over international travel at this time. For Oceania, there were many successes at the meeting, and I'd like to highlight a few of those. The successful listing of the endangered Antipodean albatross was a notable success, and one that we're pleased to share with our Chilean counterparts on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. We were pleased to see the Appendix 1 listing for the critically endangered oceanic whitetip, as well as those listings for other species in dire need of our help, such as the Asian elephant, the great Indian bustard, and the jaguar. We are pleased about the new COP-appointed Council of Positions covering key species and threats relevant to the Oceania region, most notably invasive species and fish. We are looking forward to assisting to get this work up and running in the near future. We made progress to further strengthen governance and institutional processes within CMS, for example, furthering work to assess implications of trade on Appendix 1 listed species, and strengthening consultation with range states in developing listing proposals. The meeting has also highlighted that some of the institutional processes need further strengthening. For example, there are inconsistencies in the interpretation of key terms in the Convention that can lead to inconsistent implementation and can affect the credibility of the Convention in the wider international arena. Agreed processes and guidelines are not always adhered to. For example, the criteria for listing of species on CMS appendices, and there is a lack of critical consultation when developing listing proposals. The Scientific Council recommendations are not always taken up, and in these instances it is important that there is a clear record as to why these recommendations were not accepted. This will assist the Scientific Council in future when undertaking deliberations. It was also surprising to see only 63 parties were eligible to vote at this meeting, less than half of the parties to the Convention. We note the budget constraints that will continue to face the Secretariat over the coming intersessional period. As always, efficiency and effective prioritisation will be critical. We implore parties to pay their contributions by the required deadlines. Failure to do this compromises our ability to meet the objectives of the Convention. But today we want to focus on the successes and achievements of this meeting and thank all parties and observers for the robust discussions and cooperation that we have seen in the last few days. We look forward to working with you all over the intersessional period, as well as reaching out to others to continue our collaborative efforts to conserve our taonga, as we would say in New Zealand, that is, our most treasured species of animals that need our help. I'd like to leave you with a Māori proverb, Mō tātou a mō kauri a muri ake nei, for us and our children after us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It particularly feels great to get your best wishes at a time when India is playing New Zealand in a cricket test match in Wellington. And though you have taken a good lead in the first innings, I hope that with your best wishes we'll make up in the second innings. Thank you so much. I do see South Africa, European Union, Global Youth Biodiversity Network wanting to speak, but I shall now open the floor for very short closing statements, and you may include yourself you may speak on behalf of a region or a group or parties or non-parties. So I shall now start with parties and non-parties. Can we have South Africa with your observations, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Africa would like to express its gratitude to the Government of India for providing the CMS COP13 with an excellent conference facilities that allowed us to work effectively and undertake all the side meetings, discussions, and consultations required with ease. We would like to thank India for the tremendous hospitality extended to us, which also made COP13 an enjoyable experience. Africa appreciates the cooperation and active participation shown by the parties to the CMS, non-parties, and other implementing partners during COP13. We wish this cooperation and collaboration would carry on all the way to implementation on the ground. Africa is saddened by the loss of migratory species that are amongst the species predicted to be extinct at an unprecedented rate should no urgent and concerted actions be taken. We were of the hope that these predictions by the IPBES assessment and the other global assessments and messages of the state of emergency raised by experts would raise more awareness and trigger a transformative change and radical movement from business as usual. However, there is an appetite to step up conservation activities, raise ambition in setting targets, and approving the work program in this COP, but less commitment to provide resources to strengthen the Secretariat and enhance implementation of the decisions and resolutions adopted by this COP. Mr. President, Africa sees this as setting the convention for a failure to achieve its objectives. Africa therefore commits to ensuring urgent settlement of areas of annual contribution should the system of payment be made more flexible and simplified to accommodate our technological challenges in the region. This will assist in providing some resources to assist the dire financial situation the Secretariat is faced with. Africa further requests that those that are in a position to do so to assist with their capabilities to provide voluntary contributions, either in cash or in kind, such as seconding some staff to the Secretariat to strengthen their efforts to implement the work program of the triennium. Mr. President, Africa recognizes the importance of listing species in appendices and encourage urgent and concerted actions to be taken to save such species from direct and indirect drivers that lead them to be threatened and eventually extinct, as listing without action has very little or no impact at all. Africa would like to encourage all parties to step up efforts in strengthening the implementation of the Convention to avoid negative impacts on the integrity and credibility of the Convention. The Convention for the Conservation of Migratory Species is the best tool to achieve ecological connectivity, which is of paramount importance to ensure the survival of migratory species, and therefore Africa fully supports this concept for inclusion in the post-2020 biodiversity framework. This is to protect, restore, and link important geographical areas that together support migratory species during the different phases of their natural life cycles, such as breeding and feeding. Mr. President, these were our few observations and appreciation, and we would like to wish everybody a safe trip back home and to other engagements, especially those attending the CBT meetings in Rome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now request Global Youth Biodiversity Network to Okay, that's a mistake. We need to do the countries first. So let us have European Union share your views with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is now almost a week since we arrived in Gothenburg, full of energy to steer our joint work in the context of the CMS. As the COP draws to a close, although we may be tired from long days, we can look back with satisfaction to a very productive and constructive 7 days. The EU and its member states are very pleased with the progress that we have made together during this COP. We all know that biodiversity is facing a huge challenge at global, national, and regional levels, and that the trend is not good. But we are part of the solution. Through the resolutions adopted this week, we have shown leadership and made commitments to address many of the pressures and drivers that impact on our migratory species, such as light pollution, poisoning, bycatch, plastic waste. Similarly, while we do not celebrate the need to list species on the appendices of the CMS, because listing a species is an acknowledgement of the dire state of the species, listing is a key step to improve its protection. We must therefore be satisfied that you have taken the step of affording protection to quite a number of threatened migratory species through their new listings in the appendices of the CMS during this COP. We hope that one day we will be able to celebrate that our efforts have led to their recovery. We would also note a recurring theme at this COP, namely the importance of communication with and involvement of all stakeholders and local communities in the implementation process. This is not a new issue, but the urgency of the biodiversity crisis and our unprecedented will to work together call for highlighted attention. The greatest successes in the field are achieved together by listening, co-creating, and striving for win-wins. Only with this approach will implementation in the field be possible. Of course, there were compromises to be struck this week, but CMS is now a mature convention where parties can overcome their differences and find solutions that enable us all to contribute to the protection of our migratory species. We now must take these resolutions back home and work to ensure that they are implemented at the national level. We are pleased to see that the national legislation program is taking shape and look forward to its further development over this coming intersessional period in line with the decisions of this COP. Good national legislation is a keystone to ensuring that the listing of species will lead to real changes for their future. We also look forward to the continued work on the review of the conservation status of migratory species and the finalization of the Atlas on Migration. Both are important tools to monitor our progress and to help us determine where we need to do more or better to ensure the future of migratory species. Certainly, there's plenty of work for all parties, individually and collectively. As Amy Frankel takes over the reins of the CMS Secretariat, we acknowledge the huge task also ahead of her and her team, particularly in this key year for biodiversity. We believe that the adopted budget provides the resources for them to do this work correctly. However, they can only do so if all parties make their budgetary contributions promptly. We therefore call upon those countries with arrears to regularize their situation. We also call on those parties in a position to do so to make voluntary contributions towards the program budget. The EU and its member states would like to wholeheartedly thank the Government of India and the State of Gujarat for their warm welcome during this COP. We've been enchanted by the cultural events during the receptions and inspired by the visit to the Statue of Unity. We would also like to thank the Secretariat and the chairs of the committees and working groups for all the work done before and during the COP to ensure that all of the proceedings have gone smoothly despite the large number of issues on the agenda. Finally, we would like to thank all the colleagues, delegates, and the representatives of the NGOs and other institutions that have participated in this Conference of the Parties, as well as all those people who have helped in the preparation and during the COP from our home places. We much appreciate the open minds, the constructive discussions, and the sense of common responsibility that have prevailed throughout this COP. As many of you will be continuing on to the meeting of the open-ended working group on the post-2020 process to be held this coming week in Rome, we call on you all to carry forward the spirit of this COP, to ensure an ambitious post-2020 global biodiversity framework that will secure the future of migratory species. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I now invite Costa Rica to please come in with their statements.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Costa Rica, en nombre de América Central, Sur y el Caribe aquí presentes, quiere agradecer al Gobierno de la India por la gran hospitalidad de ser sede de la COP13 de la CMS. A todos nuestros hermanos delegados de las partes, al equipo técnico de interpretaciones, votaciones, seguridad, personal de aseo, alimentación, mantenimiento y a todo Gandinajar. Igualmente, felicitar a la señora Amy Frankel por su nuevo cargo en la Secretaría Ejecutiva, al señor presidente por su extraordinario manejo de la agenda, los tiempos y los debates, en la revisión de los documentos y propuestas de enmienda. A nuestros colegas, observadores, ONGs, sector privado y medios por su acompañamiento permanente. Con gran satisfacción y el deber cumplido con los objetivos y la misión de la CMS, la región logró por consenso incluir en sus apéndices 1 y 2 de la CMS nuestro emblemático jaguar de las Américas y el mundo. Igualmente los tiburones, los elefantes, la foricán de Bengala, el albatros, entre otros. Especies migratorias agradecen nuestras grandes decisiones como sus representantes en el mundo, y lo hicimos desde acá, Gandinajar. India, el momento era este, no podríamos esperar. Se llevaron a cabo importantes debates, al igual que trascendentales decisiones en el marco de la CMS. Queremos destacar lo significativo del trabajo conjunto con otras convenciones, como lo es CITES, CDB, Ramsar, entre otros, en favor de las especies migratorias, su conectividad en corredores marinos y terrestres, que permiten garantizar la salud de los ecosistemas, la biodiversidad y los grandes servicios ecosistémicos para las presentes y futuras generaciones. Señoras y señores, nos vamos con la satisfacción de haber logrado una COP histórica de la CMS para el mundo. Muchísimas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I now request Global Youth Biodiversity Network to share your views with us, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, which is part of the broader UN Major Group for Children and Youth. The Youth Constituency would like to congratulate the Government of India, State of Gujarat, and the CMS Secretariat for the successful hosting of COP13. We commend the progress made while highlighting how crucial this year will be for enhancing action toward conservation of nature. Over the past few months, we have done several consultations within the Youth Network, which have came across with a very constant message that intergenerational equity is emerging as an intrinsic element of living in harmony with nature. We strongly urge parties to ensure that the ambition of the post-2020 biodiversity framework is being matched with the enabling conditions that include new, equitable, and predictable finance for post-2020 NBSAPs. Regarding the outcomes of COP13, we especially welcome the outcome on synergies and partnerships, paragraph 6.3, that calls for enhanced engagement with youth and indigenous peoples in CMS processes. We believe that this is a significant step forward. Young people play a crucial role in conservation of migratory species through their diverse roles as young researchers, as young task force, their on-ground conservation efforts in the habitats and tracks of migratory species. We, as the Major Group for Children and Youth, stand committed to work with parties, the Secretariat, and our allies in CMS family in enhancing meaningful youth engagement in the CMS process moving forward. We further reinstate the importance of listing species and expanding their listing. While we do so, we call upon that this should always be done with taking into account the best available science as the basis of decisions. We also highlight the importance of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration that was proclaimed by UN General Assembly in 2019, and which has also been recognized in a decision in COP13. The UN Decade provides an opportunity to enhance interlinkage towards our conservation efforts and restoration of habitats of species, their tracks, including those in the lands that are extremely degraded and including the marine ecosystems. This further brings us to the broader topic of enhancing coherence between the different UN instruments, notably the Rio Conventions, and also different MIAs that exist, to enhance system-wide coordination on these efforts. This, of course, implies on coordination between the different entities on national level as well. Regarding the budget constraint, as has been noted by previous speakers, we call upon parties, especially the developed country parties, to scale up their contributions of support and do that very urgently. In 2020, we have entered into what is called as the Decade of Action, a decade that is going to be crucial on how we steer humanity and the future of this planet. As you conclude this 13th COP, we want you to remember who we are doing this for, the future generations. We want them to give it a chance to be born, to witness the diverse beauty of this planet, the magnanimity of its people, and solidarity amongst its many struggles. I hope you want this for your children and for children across the globe. Thank you.
That's a very strong, clear message. Thank you so much, ma'am. May I now request sides to come up with their observation, please? The comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with your appreciation of the previous speaker. The outcomes of this COP for issues and species that are common to CITES are to strengthen our joint conservation efforts, including for marine turtles, eels and sharks, in the context of the African Carnivore Initiative, the Central Asian Mammal Initiative, the African Elephant Action Plan, and several species action plans agreed this week. The outcomes of CMS COP13 and CITES COP18 will be reflected in the new joint CMS-CITES work program for the coming 5 years until 2025, which will be well-targeted, pragmatic, and designed to progress both conventions, taking account of each other's mandates and expertise. Mr. Chair, we thank the Government of India for the excellent facilitation of this successful COP, the great logistics, and the warm hospitality. We congratulate hereby the entire CMS family and commend the CMS Secretariat for the skillful organization and servicing of this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was again a very clear, lovely clarity of thought. May I now request the Young Naturalist Network, YNN, to share your views, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to share Young Naturalist Network's ending remark on COP13. Really, it was fantastic COP was. Once again, we thank the Government of India for its wonderful arrangement and hospitality in Gandhinagar. We inspired by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji's motivational speech, which he addressed us in opening ceremony. We must express our high gratitude to you, sir. We also much thankful to Government of Gujarat and Gujarat Forest Department for their excellent conference management. I express on behalf of Young Naturalist Network, high gratitude and thanks to Chair of Committee of Whole and Chair of all working groups and COP appointed councillors for their effort to bring a final decision. Sir, we also like to express our high gratitude to CMS Executive Secretary and her CMS Secretariat team for their excellent professionalism to deliver conference final documents. I also express our high gratitude and thanks to all national representation for their effort to bring a final decision. We thankful to our CSOs and NGOs colleagues and scientific fraternity who bring and address prior issues in entire COW working group and COP decisions, and helping to come out with common consensus on all agenda items for final CMS COP3 decisions. Honorable Sir, Young Naturalist Network is very much concerned about conservation of migratory species, as like Siberian cane, dugong, marine turtle, raptor, and others. At least we would like to say that Young Naturalist Network works more than 6,000 youth conservation and climate volunteers globally across 27 countries. We representing in other MEs meeting and express our strong and cooperation position in concern of saving migratory species, biodiversities, and climate change. We would like to continue our future cooperation with CMS in different issues or partnerships to strengthening the CMS system and helping parties to CMS. Honorable Chair, we believe that this COP is new beginning and the new resolution to way forward to conserve endemic migratory species. I would like to end my words with COP theme line, migratory species connect the planet and together we welcome them home. I thank you, Chair, and thank you all.
Thank you so much. Our sincere appreciation for not only for your kind words for India, Government of India, Government of Gujarat, but also for congratulating all the members for the hard work that they have put in. May I now request Ram sir to make their statement, observations, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will be very short, and I would like to say before my speech that as a Ramsar Convention on wetlands, we do fully agree with the comments previously done by my colleagues. I don't need to repeat, but let me say that on behalf of the Convention of Wetlands, or Convention of Ramsar, I welcome the attention given the COP13 to the ecological connectivity, post-2020 biodiversity framework, and for highlighting need for cooperation and ensuring the contribution of the biodiversity-related conventions for its development and implementation. Thank you, India, for your hospitality, dedication, and commitment with the migratory species around the world. To finalize, give me the opportunity to do a small reminder to my friend and colleague and mentor, Brandy Chambers. We started the meeting with a speech for our colleague, John Scanlon, and I think it makes sense to say also at the end that Brandy will be very, very proud of this COP. Well done, India. Well done, CMS staff. Well done, delegate. Well done, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your kind words. We shall now move to item 35, which is the closure of the meeting. As we come to the close of the meeting, allow me to say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for coming to India, allowing us to play host to this very important conference for conservation of migratory species. I would like to thank everyone indeed, in front of the screen, behind the screen, for their concerted effort in making this a global mission. With me sharing the dais, Mr. Akankshawa Barirega, Amy Franklin. Once again, congratulations on being the Executive Secretary. You've been very helpful to me by whispering the directions that I needed to follow in order to do this new job of mine. Mr. Soumitra Dasgupta from my ministry, He has put in some exemplary effort in the last 1 year to make sure that everything is in place. And I would really request you, if you could give him a big round of applause. Everyone deserves it, but this gentleman. Thank you so much. Mr. Simon Delaney, Mr. Tim Jones, Maria Jose Ortiz, Chris Wold, Barbara Schoenberg. India is privileged to host for the first time the Conference of Parties to the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, which is CMS. The 13th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, which we are calling COP13, to the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, CMS, has been conducted successfully in India, as a view shared by all of you that we have done it successfully. All of us have done it successfully, guided by the spirit of migratory species connect the planet, and together we welcome them home, which was the preamble or the essence of this entire concerted effort. During this conference, regional meetings, side events, bureau meetings, working group meetings, stakeholder dialogue, and a high-level segment meetings were conducted, and the conservation guidelines, policies, implementation strategies have been discussed in detail. India has noted that environmental protection is a duty of every Indian and global citizen, and appreciated the progress at COP13. Hosting CMS COP13 provided an opportunity to India to consolidate, scale up, and showcase India's strengths to the world in the migratory species conservation initiatives in India. India is a recognized mega-diverse country, rich in biodiversity, including the migratory species and the associated traditional knowledge, which has been strong institutionally, legally, and policy framework on biodiversity. Despite tremendous biotic pressures, India has been making sustained efforts for conserving the biodiversity heritage, recognizing its critical linkages with the livelihood security of millions of people. And when you have your very, very energizing leadership of your Honorable Prime Minister, who was kind enough to make the ceremonial address and opening of our COP13, you just feel the need and the urge to do your responsibilities, to perform your responsibilities even more better. We have initiated work on species recovery programs on 21 identified endangered species, including the migratory species, snow leopard, gyps vultures, sea turtles, Gangetic dolphin, etc. Such country-level efforts at preservation should be complemented by enhanced international collaboration. And I'm very happy that we have actually been able to make this entire COP13 sound like a symphony of voices, making music, which I'm sure somewhere the birds must be hearing. I'm very sure this is in context of the Philharmonic Orchestra CD that Amy presented to the gentleman just while felicitating them on stage. We have initiated work on species recovery programs on 25 identified endangered species, as I have already told you. And on the occasion of this conference, I am pleased to note that the discussions on the Gandhinagar Declaration and announce that Indian government will take lead steps to champion more than one initiative in CMS portfolios. Under Migratory Species Champion Program, India would support for building capacities in the fields of energy for people, life for animals, making energy safe for wildlife, and sustaining initiatives for the conservation of wildlife and its habitats worldwide. During India's presidency of the Conference of Parties to the CMS from 2020 to 2023, India would be taking action for championing the trans-boundary cooperation, marine wildlife conservation, and Central Asian flyway. India is privileged to take more than ever a more substantial role in advancing the cause of the CMS as COP President, and I would really sincerely would like to thank my minister, my boss, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, who is now going to play the role of the President for the next 3 years, as I said, from 2023, and I'm very honored to have done this job on his behalf. We shall take opportunity of the momentum, the national interest and support on migratory species conservation generated at the conclusion of the CMS COP13 to carry out the task of the COP presidency. India is planning to play a role in promoting, championing the migratory bird initiatives along the Central Asian flyway work with the kind support of all the range countries and the CMS, of course. The Gandhinagar Declaration calls on CMS parties and relevant stakeholders to promote the importance of ecological connectivity and the role of CMS in the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, and to support efforts to address ecological connectivity in other relevant international processes, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration 2021-2030. India stands committed to work with all the parties and stakeholders to reach the happy compromise that will secure a future that provides ecological and economic space for each one of us and sustainable growth for all of us. I hope all the distinguished delegates, experts and participants across the globe have enjoyed your stay in Gandhinagar. Have enjoyed the food, the vegetarian food that was offered to you. I hope you liked the Indian spices and the way they were served. If you did, you need not clap now. I think I can already see the smiles on your faces, and I take it with utter humility. Thank you so much. Thank you. I wish all the delegates and participants of this meeting the very best and have a safe return journey with the memories of the conference and India, of course. I also hope that in the near future, we can together make the outcomes of this meeting a grand success and march forward to strengthen and intensify migratory species conservation in our countries and the world. And I thank all of you for allowing me to co-chair the event. And once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Jai Hind. And a very personal vote of thanks to all of you for liking the song the anthem that we created for this event. It was written by a very famous poet, lyricist from our country, Prasun Joshi, tuned by a very famous music director, Jeet Ganguly. But I took the risk of singing it because that's what I love to do. And it's very, very nice to know that you loved it. Even if you didn't, you at least clapped for it wholeheartedly. That shows that you're all very kind-hearted people. My sincere thanks to you once again. I would now invite the Executive Secretary to make some closing remarks. And Madam, if you could please present me with this gavel. I would like to use it at home when I want to make some final decisions. We have to fight to make those final decisions. So I'll let my wife use it at times as well, but I would love to use this at times. She's a very kind woman like all of you. She pardons me even when she's wrong. So thank you so much, Amy, for all your efforts. May I please request you to make some closing remarks.
Okay. I'm understanding that our minister has to leave us. So before he does, I just want to say thank you so much for chairing this. And we look forward to working with you and to hearing the song live next time I'm in India. I hope that's a promise.
It is. We will play at the end of the... Thank you so much. I will have to catch a flight. and I shall try to drive the Germany way to reach the airport on time. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. Thank you. Please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So I'll try to be brief, just have a few things to kind of summarize. First, here we are on the closing day of COP13. I can't believe we're here already. It has been an amazing week, a bit of a blur at times, of stakeholder and high-level discussions, side events, exhibitions, technical working groups, bilateral meetings, recognition of champions, designation of new ambassadors, signing of agreements, and many new and renewed friendships and connections. You could feel the buzz of activity at every corner. I feel like we are just getting started, and I don't want to leave this amazing gathering with all of you who are so dedicated to the conservation of migratory species. I haven't had a chance to talk with each and every one of you yet, as I had hoped, maybe a little optimistically. But we have indeed reached the very last part of our long week. Now, we all came to Gandhinagar with high hopes, and I have to say that this COP has exceeded all expectations. First, CMS COP13 set some new records. There were a total of 2,550 people who were issued badges, including 263 delegates representing 82 parties, 11 delegates from 5 non-party countries, 118 exhibitors, 117 members of the press and media, 127 representatives of national NGOs, 70 representatives of international NGOs, 50 representatives of UN agencies, and hundreds of local staff, as well as representatives of the state and union governments of India. We also joined the 21st century with top-notch equipment in the plenary hall, flat screens, and a first-ever CMS app with more than 700 active users, nearly 7,500 interactions, and over 200 photos uploaded by participants. In fact, CMS COP13 was a COP of many firsts. It was the first CMS COP to be addressed by a head of government. It was the first COP to be addressed by an astronaut. It was also the first COP where the catering was entirely vegetarian. It was the first COP with electronic voting. We held the first ever stakeholder dialogue, and for the first time, the CMS COP-appointed scientific counselors will include experts of both genders. In terms of key achievements, I was waiting for the applause. Much has been achieved in this packed week. 10 species have been added to the appendices, including the great Indian bustard, our mascot for COP13. 4 species are covered by new or extended concerted actions. A resolution calling for a review of the conservation status of migratory species has been adopted. And the COP agreed on actions addressing specific threats to migratory species, such as linear infrastructure, and for new focus on additional areas of inquiry, such as plastic pollution in terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems. The COP also broke new ground by adopting resolutions on insect decline and light pollution for the first time. Now, meetings such as this do not just happen by themselves. They are months, actually years, in the planning. They take a great deal of work and organization and also require the dedication and strong guidance of individuals willing to help ensure that the running of the meeting is a success. So, first, my thanks go out to Mr. Barry Rega of Uganda for his skillful guiding of the Committee of the Whole. I would also like to thank the other members of the Bureau, all of the working group chairs, as well as the chairs of other aspects of this COP, the Credentials Committee, the small contact groups, and more, for their incredible help in moving through the many items taken up at this COP. I also want to give special thanks to our report writers, the camera crews, the interpreters, and all those who made the meeting run smoothly. My deepest thanks, of course, goes to the Indian government. We have been hard at work together for many months to plan this COP. This was a most incredible venue, and the beautiful branding and attention to details and the fantastic services all helped make this meeting a success. I never felt we were alone, and I want to single out a few individuals in particular. First, to the Inspector General of Forests, Sumitra Dasgupta, my friend, and his entire team. Next, our other friend and leader from the government of Gujarat was Mr. Srivastava and his team from the government of Gujarat. I want to thank Dr. Sharma and the entire Gujarat Forest Department. And then they're no longer at the podium, but Minister of State Babul Supriyo, Minister Prakash Javadekar, Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, and of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi for gracing us with his live appearance on the opening day of this COP. Of course, I have to save my greatest thanks to the CMS team. When I started at CMS, after a few days, I said, my God, I'm so lucky. You know, there's an incredible group of people working at CMS. Every single one is so dedicated to what they do, so professional, and it was a good fit because, like me, they like to work hard but have fun. And, you know, I really can't tell you all of the work that has gone into this, the teamwork that pulled together through all of the preparatory meetings, through, you know, in the back room here, making sure that everything got done, communicating with each other, helping each other, supporting me, supporting you. And, you know, it was just an amazing, amazing effort. I thank each and every one of you for your incredible work here, and hopefully we'll have a chance to celebrate before we all leave Gandhinagar. So thank you, CMS, and our family who came to support us here. Finally, my last thanks are for all of the many others that helped make this meeting a success: the technicians, the cleaning crews, the caterers, the drivers, and all of the local staff and volunteers, too many to be named. Thank you all. Just a final word. Upon the closing of this meeting, India will take on the leadership role of the CMS COP presidency. With the commitments made in the Prime Minister's address, we can be confident that India will help advance the importance of the Convention's work over the next 3 years. The Prime Minister highlighted a number of specific initiatives, including leadership for the Central Asian Flyway, the conservation of marine turtles, reduction of pollution from plastic, and more. Through the presidency's representational role, India will also be able to promote the importance of CMS at other high-level forums, such as the Climate COP, the UN Biodiversity Summit in New York, and the UN Biodiversity Conference, which will adopt the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework in October. Finally, as you know, it was Bradley Chambers' idea to come to India for COP13. I do want to echo what Francisco said from Ramsar. I think what we have all done this week would have made him very proud. CMS COP has given the super year for nature the best possible start, and it has strengthened and positioned CMS to deliver on its unique role of addressing the conservation of migratory species and their habitats. Now, of course, we have to turn words into action, and there's too much to do to reverse the alarming trends of species loss. We need to raise awareness of the importance of migratory species. We need to secure political commitments to support our collective work. And above all, we still do need to secure resources necessary for us to fulfill our mandate so we can match all of our fine words with corresponding actions. I look forward to continuing working with all of you in the coming intersessional period to deliver on what has been agreed here at COP13. I look forward to working with you in that period, and of course to seeing you all at COP14 in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for your kind words. Now, before closing the meeting, I would be requesting the PCCF Head of Government of Gujarat, Dr. Sharma, to say a few closing remarks. Dr. Sharma.
Secretary General CMS Ms. Amy, my colleague IG Forest Mr. Sumitra, dignitaries on the dais, delegates from all over the world, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. Today is 22/2/2020, that is 22nd February, the concluding day of this great COP CMS. Friends, CMS Secretariat, Government of India, and Gujarat Forest Department have been working together for the last several months to make this prestigious event a grand success. Today, I am feeling elated on successful completion of CMS COP13 at Gandhinagar. It was really a matter of great pride for our country, India, and Gujarat State to successfully host this grand global event in the green city of Gandhinagar. On this occasion, I express my sincere and deep gratitude to Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi sir, for addressing the plenary session on 17th, inspiring and guiding the delegates for working towards environment conservation and for making our planet safe for migratory species. He has been a great source of inspiration to our country, to the whole world, for conservation of wildlife. Conservation of Asiatic lion in Gujarat has been possible only due to his efforts and great support. I also thank Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shri Vijay Rupani, who is a dedicated wildlife conservationist, who was instrumental in saving about 14,000 birds last month during this year's Karuna Abhiyan in Gujarat, for gracing the plenary session and inspiring the delegates. On this occasion, I thank Honorable Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, Honorable Minister of State, Shri Babul Supriyo ji, for gracing the occasion and for steering the event towards grand success. I express my special gratitude to the Secretary General CMS, Ms. Amy, and her entire CMS team for working tirelessly since last several months and coordinating with the host country, India and Gujarat, for its grand success. It has really been her great efforts that has resulted in the success of this COP. Thanks a lot and congratulations, Ms. Amy. I am thankful to our Honorable Forest Ministers in Gujarat, Shri Ganpat Wasawa and Shri Patkar, for all the support provided for this event. My special thanks are also due to Shri C.K. Mishra, Honorable Secretary to Government of India, for guidance and providing full support for the success of this COP. I express my deep gratitude to all the international and national delegates who came all the way from different parts of the world and whose active participation made this event lively and meaningful. My special thanks to all the 3 CMS ambassadors also, and best wishes to them. The entire team from Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India, deserves my special thanks. The team was led by my friend Mr. Sumitra. I really congratulate him and my compliments to the whole team. I also place on record my sincere thanks to the Chief Secretary Gujarat and ACS Forest and entire Government of Gujarat for valuable support. I owe special gratitude to all the officers and staff of the Gujarat Forest Department who tirelessly supported and took care of all the nitty-gritties and made this COP a smoothly conducted affair. My special thanks goes to all other organizations of Government of India and Government of Gujarat, such as Index B, TCGL, Gujarat Police, Airports Authority of India, and all others who have made this event successfully. I also thank media for covering all the events of CMS COP13 and reporting the facts and proceedings before the world in right perspective. Friends, CMS COP13 has largely been historic and has achieved its objectives. I am sure that under India's presidency, the cause of conservation of migratory species will be taken to new heights. We tried our best to make your stay comfortable. As per our tradition and culture, that is Atithi Devo Bhav, we say guests are our gods, and we took care of you, and I am sure you must have a comfortable stay. And I am sure you would carry pleasant memories with you. At the end, I would like to quote our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, that if you protect nature, nature will protect you. And let us carry this message from here to our home. The theme of COP13 was Migratory Species Connect the Planet. But after being together with you for 7 days, today I am feeling that we all conservationists also connect this planet. I wish all the delegates a very happy and safe journey back home. Thanks a lot to all of you. Mercy, Jai Hind, goodbye.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. You have been really wonderful. I must say that. Before I close the meeting, I would remind the newly elected members of the Standing Committee to stay behind briefly for the brief 51st meeting of the Standing Committee, which will be held in Seminar Hall number 1. Now the time has come to declare the 13th meeting of the Conference of Parties to CMS closed. Thank you.
उड़ आओ ये धरती बुला रही है खुल के ये पंख फैलाओ ये धरती बुला रही है